But I'm going to talk about a long-term standard pivot irrigation management with full irrigation and limited irrigation, as well as some of the rainfed or dryland crop production, how it relates to crop water productivity and evapotranspiration and some of the yield from those different irrigation management practices. These are some of the features from my long-term cover crop research in 4 locations in the state, and I would love to talk about this project perhaps next year sometime. The great video clip that you watched this morning, it did bring back some of great memories from my childhood, that when I was establishing cycle tubes almost on a daily basis, every morning, about 120 of them. And also that translated into my research career. I think I mentioned this before, the way we do agricultural research has changed significantly in the last, say, 20, 30 years. We were given a field when we were doing our graduate studies, and then a tractor, and that's pretty much it. So we used to plant, cultivate, spray, everything by ourselves. But nowadays we have great resources that we provide to our graduate research assistants to conduct agricultural research. So today I'm going to talk about interannual variability in crop water productivity. So interannual variability is how much variation you have from one year to another in terms of how much yield we produce per inch of water applied and per inch of water used, or evapotranspiration. The reason we do this long-term study is how do we account for annual or interannual variability in crop productivity in our long-term planning. This planning can be done by NRDs, Integrated Management Plans, or DNR, or USDA, or even further, in Washington, D.C., our national leaders make plans or projections on water resource availability versus crop productivity, and then how the nation is advancing in terms of meeting the future food production. So what we do in Nebraska in our agricultural research fields has implication all the way to top leaders in terms of planning and management for future productivity analysis. So the research I'm going to talk about today is, I have conducted this in 2005 all the way to 2010, and it is still ongoing, but I'm going to stop at 2010 and share what we have learned so far. Now this is important because if you see or hear us, faculty members, researchers, scientists, and other agricultural professionals, we usually talk about, well, you can produce X amount of bushel per inch of water used or applied. Well, this is not constant. There is not a single number where we can say, well, you can apply an inch and that will increase your yield by X amount. There is not a single number, so that changes every year. So the research is conducted at South Central Agricultural Laboratory. This is the coordinates and elevation. So in my standard pivot field, I had fully irrigated treatment and then limited irrigation, which is about 75% of the fully irrigated, 60% of the fully irrigated treatment, and half of the full irrigation and those rainfed treatments. In 2005, when I first purchased the standard pivot, it was the first year, so I did not have treatment, so it was only a fully irrigated field. Completely randomized, and as most of you might know, I work with very, very large plot sizes. In this case, in this research, each plot, each replication is 2.5 acres in size, times 12. And the field was maintained as rich till from 2005 all the way to 2010. Before we do any research, at least before I do any research, I check the quality or the integrity and quality of the instrumentation that we use. So for my standard pivot, for example, we check the uniformity of the nozzle package to make sure that what we are intending to apply, that actually what is applied in the field. So there are methods that we use to quantify the uniformity of the center pivot water application, which is called Christiansen's uniformity coefficient. And we did this in 2005 and 2008 by setting up catch cans under the sprinklers every 15 or 20 feet and 3 rows, and to measure the water and then measure the uniformity coefficient. If that coefficient is below 84%, then this pivot is not suitable to conduct that research. So we have to go back, fix things before we start the research. In our case, we were fortunate, 95% and 96% uniformity coefficient. This is an aerial view of my research station, research farm. This is Harvard in the north. This is Clay Center south, and then this is Hastings on the west. This is one of the corners that I have developed in the last 12 years as South Central Agricultural Laboratory. It's 8 acres. This is my first SDI subsurface drip field, 36 acres. This is my center pivot field, 50 acres. And this is my second SDI system, 14 acres. So for the last 6 years, I have also been comparing SDI versus pivot because these are the same fields. I divided this into several sections, install SDI and then pivot, and then run them side by side for 6+ years. Same planting date, same soil, same hybrid, same everything except one is SDI, one is center pivot. And we have a ton of good data to show what is the potential differences between SDI versus pivot in terms of water savings or productivity, evaporation losses, transpiration, and so on. And I would love to talk about this research in another program, perhaps next year or the year after. So the idea is to use this center pivot and divide this into several sections in terms of full irrigation and limited irrigation, but also compare everything we do in the center pivot field with the SDI field. So this is my SDI shed or control unit with 20 different valves, so I can have 20 different treatments in the field. But the reason I mention this is because I control my center pivot from this control shed also. So this underground line comes from the pump, comes to this filter, so the water gets cleaned up. So some of the water goes to my SDI field, which is on this side, on the south side, 16 acres, and then underground that water also goes to my pivot. So, and there's a reason why I switched between SDI and pivot. So in July, for example, I may have several different configurations in terms of irrigation management. I may want to open just one valve to irrigate one treatment, so I need only 15 gallons per minute flow rate. Or I can open 10 of them, so I need 150 gallons per minute. Well, maybe on the same day, I may want to irrigate my center pivot, so I need another 650 plus gallons per minute. To be able to accomplish this, then I had to install a variable frequency drive 12 years ago to be able to accomplish that configuration, the control unit. So now I can go from 15 gallons per minute all the way to 800 gallons per minute in a matter of 2 seconds. And then the variable frequency drive controller senses the pressure from pivot and the manifold on the SDI line. So based on that pressure differential, I can provide or speed up the motor or slow it down to adjust the flow rate. This is my pump with the variable frequency drive. It's a 60 horsepower motor, and then micrometer, flow meter, and then this is the controller, variable frequency drive controller that controls all the functions or the operations that we have between pivot and SDI fields. And my good friend Mike Allen, who is here today, was a great help to establish all those structures back in 10, 11 years ago. So going back to my center pivot field, so I divided this field 10 years ago into 12 equal size, equal shaped pies. The idea 10 years ago was to have this variable rate irrigation. so that I can have different irrigation levels in the field, different fertilizer levels, different plant populations, so I can have different orientation. So as the pivot makes the circle, then I can program the controller to apply an inch to certain treatments, or apply 7500s or 1600s or 1500s, or don't apply anything. So we can do this as we make the circle with the pivot. And I can change the application rate or application amount every 30-degree angle. You can see that this was some of the initial discussions for variable rate irrigation that we started 12 years ago. So I have been doing this for 12 years, but the only constraint is I am not able to change the application amount along the pivot. So I have to change the whole lateral at once. So, but this is the research data. This is the field that the research data that I'm going to present today. Plus, in the corners, I did have additional dry land or rainfed treatments with different planting populations, 18, 24, 36, and 42,000 plants per acre. It's a TNL pivot that I purchased from my external research funds. It's 4-tower pivot manager with a 10 psi Nelson low drift nozzle sprinkler every 5 feet. And then it also has the precision mobile drip irrigation system. I think this was the first pivot that TNL installed PMDI on. So it is a great machine to do research under. I also implement the same or similar practices under my Valley lateral system, which is the first GPS-guided lateral system that Valley or Valmont has ever produced, which is also, I purchased this in 2010 to implement similar variable rate irrigation fundamentals research. I also have raking machine on the south side of the farm. So the idea is, this is going back to my pivot field, variable rate irrigation, what it is, how it works, how do we make it work to achieve what we want to achieve in terms of productivity. All those questions, to be honest with you, I do not understand fully. I've been doing research for many, many years. I've been farming ever since I was 8 years old, but I still have significant doubts, not doubts, but questions about how this VRI works. So I initiated this research under my same center pivot, where I installed 600 plus soil moisture sensors, every foot up to 4 feet in 64 different locations in the field. I also monitor soil temperature. I also monitor electrical conductivity every 30 minutes over time. So it's a great data set to go into more details and understand how this VRI works and what it can do, what it cannot do, and how do we make this profitable. What are the economical implications? Do I need VRI? When do I need it? What kind of soil variability justifies to purchase variable rate machine and implement that? So I had started this seven years ago with the National Science Foundation research, and it is still ongoing. The idea is, can we develop an autonomous machine that senses soil moisture from different parts of the field, and then before it even gets closer to that part of the field, extract the data, soil moisture data, real time, as it makes the circle. Before we get to that point, we get soil moisture, and then we know where we want to be in terms of soil moisture. So how much water do I need to apply to that part of the field? Make the decision, send the signal to the nozzles, and then adjust the application rate. That, to me, is the real variable rate irrigation. And we have done this. Took us 7 years, but we have accomplished this. And hopefully when we have the field day in the near future at Clay Center, we will invite all of you to participate and see if we can share this research. Another question is, I am doing VRI or variable rate irrigation, but I am doing fixed rate nitrogen. How does this work? Does it make it better? Does it provide or result in more variability in terms of nitrogen concentration or amount in the soil profile? Do we have to do variable rate irrigation and variable rate nitrogen management? Do they have to be together? So these are some of the questions that we need to tackle. This is the pivot field, some of the capacitance type John Deere sensors, and then I said 600 plus, but I think it's more than that. Close to 700 soil moisture sensors, including watermark sensors, capacitance sensors, and then I use Neutron, radiation-based soil moisture sensors to monitor soil moisture from each plot, each replication. I do the same thing that I teach. So I use watermark sensors to monitor soil moisture, determine when to irrigate, and also how much to apply. Most of you remember this table that we put together 12 years ago now. So this is the matrix potential from watermark sensors. These are available or depleted amount of soil moisture for different soil types. So for Hastings Siltone, for example, we suggest if you are reading the top two sensors between 90 to 110 kilopascal or centibar, then this is the time to irrigate. That's what I have done for many years in that pivot research. So we measured many different variables, including evapotranspiration, yield, soil moisture. I do have excellent data set on nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and other micronutrients from different parts of the field. We have grain quality analysis, oil content, protein content, starch, fiber, and so on. We monitor plant height, leaf area index, irrigation yield production functions, ET yield production functions, efficiency terms, and also precipitation use efficiency. I don't know if I'm going to have time to talk about all those, but so we keep a good record of our management practices, what happens in the field, in what treatment, in what replication of plot, what we apply, when we apply, how much we apply. We have a good record of all those practices so that when we interpret the data, we know where this data set is coming from. So these are some of our planting date or management practices. Planting date, emergence date. It takes about 7 to 11 days for corn to emerge under certain soil temperature conditions, but that number is not constant. These are the hybrids, and I try to keep the same hybrid or at least the same genetic background across the years so that we can have consistency. We use microgen in this research, 2T780, and then similar parent for the rest of the research years. Hence, herbicide, insecticide, pesticide, fertilizer type, amount, and then this is 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 2005, I'm sure most of you remember it was very dry year, especially in the spring. It was very dry year. 2006 was very dry year. 2007 was wet, 2008 was wet, 2009 was wet for certain parts, 2010 was an average year. So these are the irrigation dates and amounts per treatment, 100%, FIT, full irrigated treatment, 75%, 60, 50, and recap. Just to give an idea about research years, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then this is 33-year history of the precipitation at Clay Center. 1988 was the driest year with 16, 17 inches per year. This is annual. Long-term average, annual precipitation from January 1st until December 31st is about 29 inches. But as you can see, there is a big interannual variability in precipitation. But also, I don't know if you can see this, but I wish I draw a line, running average line. There is a period, there is a cycle here. And if I show you 120 years of data, that cycle shows more clearly. But I think there is a clear cycle in terms of precipitation, inclines and declines over the years. So every 6, 7 years there is an increase in precipitation and then decline, increase, decline. So going back to 2005 all the way to 2010, annual precipitation varied significantly from 16, 17 inches per year all the way to 40 inches per year. So interannual variability has impact on crop, and I will talk more about this relationship. Growing season precipitation, May 1st until September 30th, also changed significantly. For example, in 2005, growing season precipitation was 10 inches. In 2010, it was 22 inches. So my point is, long-term research is extremely powerful because you investigate the same variables under the same environments, under different conditions, different climates. If I do this research at Clay Center 1 year and then move to North Platte another year, Scottsbluff another, well, the environment is changing. That's why stationary, same environment, long-term research is very powerful to make solid conclusions about different things. And then this is the long-term average precipitation for Clay Center, which is about 17, 18 inches. So, growing season monthly precipitation changed significantly from 1 year to another. These are each year for the same month, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For May, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can see how much it varies for the same month between the years. In the last 6 years, or from 2005 to 2010, the largest monthly precipitation was in June 2010 with 9 inches. We did measure surface runoff each year because that has to go back to our ET calculations. Surface runoff changed significantly also, all the way from 30 hundredths to almost an inch, 80 hundredths, 85 hundredths a year. And then deep percolation, this is the amount of water that moves from the crop root zone to the radial zone. It's not lost, it's moving downwards. So that ranges from half inch to 2 inches in 2008, which was very, very wet year, as you all remember. 2007 was also very wet year. Soil moisture content, we monitor soil moisture content in many different locations over time. And then this is just an example. In 2005, you can see how dry it was. The wilting point of seed loam soil, either Kozat seed loam or Hastings seed loam, is about 12, 13, 14% by volume. Wilting point is where you don't have a single moisture left, amount of moisture left in the soil. So it's bone dry soil. And you can see in 2005, our topsoil at the first foot is at wilting point in full irrigated treatment as well as at rain-fed treatment. So these are the yield for each year. In 2005, keep in mind, only rain-fed and full irrigated treatment, so we did not have limited irrigation. But then, these are the yield results for rain-fed 50, 60, 75, and FIT, full irrigated treatment. So it ranges, as you can see, there's an increase, of course, with amount in yield with increasing water level from limited to full. But there are several points where 75% is extremely close to FIT, full irrigated treatment, in most cases. They are different, but they are very close. But also there is an increase in rain-fed yield, as you can see from 2005 to 2010, with the exception of 2008, which was very, very wet year. Rain-fed yield was 210, maybe 209. So yields range from 76 bushel per acre dry land year, or rain-fed yield in 2005, all the way to 210 bushel. And then irrigated yield range from, for full irrigated treatment, it's about 230 all the way to 256 bushel per acre. These are treatment average yield across years. So this is rain-fed yield averaging all 6 years. 50% averaging all 6 years, and same for the rest. So rain-fed 145 bushel per acre, and these are the standard deviation bars. That means how much variability you might have with rain-fed yields from one year to another. So that rain-fed yield can be 145 on average, 6-year average, but it can be, let's see, this is 140, 60, so it can be 205 bushel per acre, or it can be 85 bushel per acre. But on long-term average, it's 145. You can see the 75% and FIT, full irrigated, they are 9 bushel, 10 bushel difference. They are very close, but they are not the same. Now, this is important. When you do agricultural field research, there are certain standards that we have to obey, or meet at least. We have to meet certain standards. Coefficient of variation is an indication of how variable your plots are for the same treatments. If that number, and in our case, I think those numbers are extremely low, so that means our research is valid. That means we don't have much variability between the replications or the plots for the same treatment. If this number is above 25% in agronomic research, does anybody know what would happen? If this number is above 25%, that means this research is invalid. You have to go back and repeat it. But thankfully, in our case, they are all below 14, 16%. I'm going to skip this. So these are the evapotranspiration data for each year, for each treatment over time. So this is rain-fed, 50, 60, 75%, and fully irrigated. There is an increase in evapotranspiration as you increase the irrigation amount, which makes sense. More irrigation means more ET, but also more yield to a certain point. Our ET numbers for the rain-fed range from 18 inches per growing season to 23 inches per growing season, and fully irrigated treatment ET was about 25 26 inches, and that was pretty consistent over the years. So this is the same thing, average ET plus minus standard deviation. So this one, and you know, I apologize for being late this morning, but I have another apology to make. I have 2 or 3 graphs that have metric units, and I was able to convert them to English, so I apologize for that. This is not one of them. So this is seasonal irrigation applied, and then this is seasonal evapotranspiration. This is inches and inches. There is no question that more irrigation will result in more ET, and this is an excellent data set, long-term data set to show that. So more irrigation means more ET, but the amount or the magnitude of increase in ET due to increasing in irrigation also had interannual variability. So if you increase irrigation X amount in 2005, you will get X amount of increase in ET in 2005. If you do the same thing in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, each year you are going to get different increase in ET per increase or per unit increase in irrigation. And you can see none of those lines are together. So that means each year is different. On average, in 2005, 1 inch increase in irrigation resulted in 35 hundredths of increase in ET. And then 70 hundredths in 2006, and then 90 hundredths increase in ET in 2007, 1.4 inch increase in ET per 1 inch increase in irrigation. Why is that? How come ET becomes more than 1 inch of irrigation? So we apply, well, we increase irrigation 1 inch. Let's say you apply 8 inches total irrigation per growing season. Okay? So if I do 9 inch, my ET increases more than the increase in irrigation. Am I making sense? So this happened only once in 6 years, 2008. While this is the contribution of ET from soil, from water intercepted on the canopy, and also crop water uptake from the soil profile. So that's why, even if we increase irrigation by 1 inch, ET, because surface is wet in 2008. There is more ET per unit of irrigation applied. So, on average of all 6 years, if I increase my irrigation 1 inch, then I'm going to have 30 hundredths increase in ET. There is not a single year where ET did not increase due to irrigation. How about irrigation versus yield? So, what do we call this? Those curves? Yield production functions, right? You heard this, I'm sure, in other presentations. So today, there are two distinct yield production functions. Irrigation yield production function, and then ET yield production function. These are irrigation yield production function. Essentially, how much yield can I expect per inch of water applied? You can see none of those curves are the same. Some of them are really similar, but they are not the same. So that means each year is different. Each year we expect different yield per inch of water applied in irrigation. So, in terms of irrigation yield production functions for south central part of our state, 1 inch of irrigation applied, you can expect 14.7 bushel per acre yield increase in 2005, 27.4, only 1.4 bushel per acre in 2007, 17 bushel per acre in 2008, 30 bushel per acre yield in 2009. 2009 was wet, but it was a great year in terms of climatic conditions for crop productivity. Nighttime temperatures, daytime temperatures, radiation, and other factors. In 2010, didn't make much difference. So, in 2007 and 2010, there was not much impact of irrigation on productivity. But again, yield increase per inch of water applied also has interannual variability. Every year is different. Every year is different. This table took me a long time to put together, but if you allow me to explain, I think this is very critical to better understand our crop production, when do I irrigate, how much do I irrigate, if I do that, what happens to net return, economical implications. So this is, each year, I have, this is treatment, fully irrigated, 75% limited, 60% limited, 50% limited, and this is long-term average, okay? And these are the years. So this is irrigated, fully irrigated yield, increase, fully irrigated yield, increase relative to rainfall for that year. So I took the difference between fully irrigated yield minus rainfall yield for that year. This is how critical irrigation is. So on average, and then I don't want to spend too much time, but let me talk about averages at least. On average, in south central part of the state, you could increase the yield by 99 or 100 bushel per acre if you practice good or excellent irrigation management. That's the bottom line. Percentage-wise, 90% yield increase. Of course, you can argue with me that I have been arguing with you. Every year is different. It may be 99 bushels per year. In this year, next year, it may not be anything. If we have another year like 2008, we may not have that. But on average, and then these are the limited irrigation practices relative to rainfall. So if you practice 75%, you can expect to have 75 bushel, 76 bushel per acre more yield than rainfall. So I think this table is very, very important in terms of long-term data. So irrigation yield production functions, increase in yield per inch of water applied. Now I'm switching to ET yield production functions. This time the big difference, yield expected per inch of water used, not applied. Why these are different? Why these are significantly different? Irrigation yield production function versus ET yield production function. Why they are different? Any ideas? Well, because it's very simple. not all irrigation water applied is used, right? Some will evaporate, some will depercolate. If we irrigate during a rainy day or right after rain, it's going to run off. So not all water we apply is going to end up in ET that will end up in yield production. So that's why these two are significantly different production functions. This is much more powerful than irrigation yield production function because this accounts for how much I got X amount of yield, 250 bushel per acre, but this is exactly how much water I use, not I apply. You can see the correlation between the two extremely strong, and that's what you would expect. More ET is going to result in more yield. That is why in dry years, if you have good irrigation management, in dry years, that's when you have the most or the highest yields. Unless there are extreme events where you have 110 degree Fahrenheit temperatures right during silting stage, you can do things to cool the microclimate down. But in general, in most cases, more dry conditions are going to result in more yield under good irrigation management practice. So these are production functions every year, and then the full data for all years. There is a very, very strong correlation between the two. Now, this is important, and I don't think many people talk about this, but in the professional society conferences, committees that I chair, we talk about this substantially. Basal evapotranspiration. How many of you have heard this term before? We heard potential ET, actual crop ET, but basal irrigation, basal evapotranspiration. This is important. John, you can stop me at any time if I exceed my time, but this is important to explain because this goes back to water resources planning, management, allocation, and everything. Now, basal ET is where this line intersects this x-axis. Just bear with me a little bit. So when I come down with that regression line to x-axis, I have a number, right? Say 250, and I apologize, this is one of the figures that I have metric units. But this is about 10 inches. So 250 millimeter is about 10 inches. So that line comes down to about 10 inches. From 0 to 10 inches, this area, this distance is called basal ET. What does it mean? It means very important things. It means the amount of ET that crop has to utilize before it starts producing any yield. Okay? Corn, soybean, other field crops are not like, say other greenhouse grown plants that it takes very short time to produce fruit, right? But corn, you don't produce anything until September. So this amount of ET that plant has to uptake before it starts producing any yield is called basal ET. Okay? So this is very important. There are ways to reduce that basal ET, tillage practices, plant population, early closure, to reduce evaporation. These are all good practices to reduce that basal ET. In 2005, we had to, or that crop had to use 10 inches before it starts producing any yield. In 2006, it's 12 inches, 2008, 8. So every year, there is different amount of basal ET to be used before the crop produces any yield. Okay, so in this table, this is the amount of yield increase we can expect per inch of water used. You remember the irrigation yield production functions, they were all the way to 30 bushel per acre per inch of irrigation applied. Well, in ET, it's more consistent. The deviation or variability is less than irrigation yield production function. So if I increase my ET by 1 inch, then I can expect, or I can produce 50.3 bushel per acre yield for 1 inch of ET in 2005. And then 19, 18, 13, 19, 27 bushel per acre yield production per inch of water used. On average, if you want to have a long-term average value, in south central part of our state, we produce 17 bushel per acre yield per inch of ET. This is very proud table, but it is another critical variable. Now, the amount of yield produced per inch of ET changes every year, right? You saw in that table. And these are measured. These are not models, not simulation, nothing. These are all field research measured data. But I want to understand what is driving that. What is driving this interannual variability in yield production for X amount of ET? Because it is substantial. In 1 year you get 14 bushel per acre yield for same 1 inch of ET. In another year, you get 27 bushel. This is important. This is a big difference. So I want to understand that. Well, then I said, okay, let me go back 6 years. Each month, I am going to look at precipitation impact on that production, maximum temperature, minimum temperature, solar radiation, net radiation, vapor pressure deficit. This is the dryness of the atmosphere above the corn canopy. Vapor pressure deficit. And I'm going to look at wind speed each month to see in each month, is there a specific variable that drives or impacts the production function more than others? And I promise you, this has never been done before. So that's why I perhaps seem like more passionate about this, but this is really important. In what month, what climate variable impacts my crop production? So let's take 1 minute and look at this in detail. Precipitation. And this R square is the importance of that variable. Okay, so R square in this table is very critical. How important that number? The top number is 1 for R square. If this is 1, then this variable is absolutely one of the most important variables for corn production and soybean production. So, precipitation. May precipitation, look at the R square. It's almost nothing. June precipitation, 60%. This June precipitation is impacting my corn production in clay center up to 60%. 60% of variability in corn production can be explained by June precipitation. And then July precipitation, 46. And then you get to August, 16. And then September is not important because crop is maturing. Maximum temperature. This is 20.2, almost nothing. June, July, almost nothing. In August, 76%. August maximum temperature is critical for our corn production. Now this is not surprising to us. We know that, right? And we know we don't want very high temperatures in August during grain field or sifting stage that will negatively impact our production. But my point is, this is an independent quantification of that impact. So August Tmax, maximum temperature, has 76% impact on what the yield is going to be in that area. September is nothing, because September is done. Minimum temperature, nothing in May, not much in June, July, but still June nighttime temperatures have the strongest impact on crop production amongst all months. Solar radiation. August solar radiation has the most impact on productivity. This is net radiation, let me pass this. Vapor pressure deficit, 0.21, 0.15, and then August, you see that? 0.87. How dry that atmosphere right above the crop canopy is has huge impact on what that crop is going to do. And then wind speed, you would expect, or you may not expect any impact of wind speed, but it does, especially in May. it has the most impact in May, June, July, August, September. So if you look at this, the conclusion is how much yield production we are going to have per inch of water used is mainly dictated in August. That does not mean you just bypass May, June, July, and then don't do anything, don't take care of your crop. Of course we have to, but August is the most critical month to determine that productivity. This is my last slide, I think. So in this case, this is new concept. We talked about irrigation efficiency, crop water use efficiency, evapotranspiration water use efficiency, precipitation water use efficiency, and there are a few others. But there is no index, or there was no index so far, that quantifies I have X amount of ET that I had to replenish with my pivot, and then can I combine irrigation application and evapotranspiration together to come up with an efficiency term to evaluate my production system. That's what this is about. So, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but this is irrigation evapotranspiration use efficiency, and we might see more and more about this term in the coming years. So I want to replenish what is used. That's the ideal case, right? If your corn crop uses 1 inch and then you replenish 1 inch, well, that doesn't really happen always in the real world conditions. We don't do that. So this is, in the ideal case, if I use 1 inch, then I replenish 1 inch, so that's 100% efficient system. But that doesn't happen. In fact, these are real data from my own research that I was not able to do that. With ton of sensors and many people, me in the field every single day, including Saturday, Sundays, even I cannot, we cannot accomplish this. So there's variability. And this is a term that accounts for that efficiency of the crop production system. The numbers below 100% is under irrigation, and the numbers below, above that is over irrigation. So I did over irrigate in 2008. You can see that, it's very clear. And then I under irrigated in 2010. But this 100% irrigation efficiency, to be honest with you, is not a realistic number. We cannot be 100% efficient in the field. We have variability in everything. We have variability in sprinkler nozzles, we have soil variability, climate, late emergence, mist emergence, and nutrient lack, and all those dynamics are going to impact us that we are not going to be 100% efficient. That's the real world challenge. So that's why I suggest if this number is between 80 and 100, I think we are doing very good. So that's all I have, John. I apologize for exceeding my time as always, but so.
A lot of very interesting, very important information. Other questions, first one? A lot for all of us to take in. It's time to take to it. Would you be willing to make this presentation available? We can put it on our website, or do you have it on the university website?
I can make it available.